You. So I want to welcome y'all to our session today. We're going to be, and I appreciate everybody joining us for the webinar that we're going to be hosting, and really appreciate Maggie joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and stop our music so that we can go ahead and dive in, as much as we all love Paramore. We'll go ahead and get started. So today we are talking personal finance for nonprofit professionals. The really important piece here is that we know that operating in a nonprofit environment has its own complications and its own layers, particularly when it comes to the money versus mission mindset, which is hugely important. As we get started, I want to thank you for welcoming us into whatever space you are in right now. With all of us working from home, we know this is a really different operating environment, and we just appreciate the fact that you're taking a moment away from the rest of your day to spend some time with us. And if you want to flip on video, that's cool. We'd love to see your faces, but also feel free. My new best friend for webinar times is my favorite fidget toy. So take a moment to do whatever you need to do to get yourself comfortable. Take this time to go for a walk if you feel like it. We want this to be enjoyable, and you'll definitely be able to get the benefit out of it, regardless of where you are. I'm also going to drop a quick link into the chat. I've got to pull it up really quick, which is a link for you to be able to submit some questions. So if you don't feel comfortable submitting your question in the chat here, we've got a Google form set up so that you can submit your questions there. That just gives you another avenue. I'll drop that link right here. And we'll be watching that for questions as they come up, since finances are a little bit more of a tricky topic. We want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable asking any questions that you might have. Today, we are going to run through a little bit about us. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Whitney Kippis, and I'll be introducing the other folks on our teams, and then we'll get to know y'all a little bit and why this topic was really important to you. Then we'll get into a bit of the money mindset, unpacking that money versus mission mindset and understanding what that is. And then we've got a deep dive into 5 mindset shifts that can really help you rethink how you're thinking about money and possibly level up your money game. Then we've got a little bit of time to spend in some breakout sessions, because we know that that's the best way for you to connect with each other and to share what's working, what's not working. And then looking ahead, this is a preview that we've pulled together based on a course that we're going to be launching in November, which is called Personal Finance for Nonprofit Professionals. And that is going to be a 3-week long course with a lot more tools and tactics. So we might mention a few of the things that we're going to be talking about as that might be part of that course throughout, and then we'll give you a little bit more information as we wrap up. So for those of you that don't know me and SJ, we are Team Bid Boss. We've been working in the international development sector and nonprofit sectors for both of us for our entire careers, except for the last year when we became Bid Boss and started a business where we provide consulting services to international development organizations. A lot of our work is focusing on helping business development teams and fundraising staff avoid burnout, because we know that these are really difficult, challenging environments to operate in. And part of the reason that we are drawn to thinking about personal finance is because we know it's so closely tied to burnout and to one of the biggest stresses in people's lives. So we wanted to take that opportunity to really bring in somebody who knows the finance world inside and out. So I'm going to hand it over to Maggie to introduce ourselves. She's coming in as our subject matter expert today.
Great. Yes, thank you. So I'm Maggie Germano. I am a financial coach for women. I also founded the Money Circle community, which is a safe space for women to get together and talk about money, because I think there's already tons of shame and judgment out there around money. So having those spaces where you can talk about what you're dealing with is really important. Makes you feel less alone. So I do one-on-one coaching with women and couples, focusing on the day-to-day money management related to budgeting, paying down debt, building up savings, and improving your relationship with money so that it is less stressful and that you feel more confident about what you're doing. So I also I'm the host of the Money Circle podcast, which is the same kind of thing around making personal finance more accessible. But I touch a lot on social justice issues and the relationship between money and economics generally with that as well. And I also write about all that good stuff on my column at Forbes Women as well. And I'm also a salary negotiation trainer, because as we'll kind of get into and what the course really dives into, income and negotiating is really, really important when it comes to women's financial empowerment as well.
Awesome. Well, we want to hear a little bit about y'all. Since we're a relatively small group, you can feel free to unmute, or you can drop your information in the chat if that's more comfortable for you. Just a couple quick questions for introductions. What your name is, what drew you to this workshop, and then a final question of if we could be holding this in person in our fantasy worlds, and you could teleport there for free, where would you be right now? So I've kind of introduced myself, but if we were holding this workshop in person, man, I'd just like to be on a beach somewhere, somewhere where there is sunshine. And I'll invite Kara to go next.
Hi, I'm Kara. I was drawn to this webinar because I moved back to the US in the last year, which meant I've had to completely change and the way like I do all of my finances, and really have been running up more and more against kind of issues, especially with different things getting cut at work as far as benefits. And Whitney, I fully agree, anywhere warm on a beach right now. I did not get my required beach time this summer and have been missing it. And I invite Laura to go next.
Hi, I'm Laura. I would agree. I also want to be on the beach. I haven't gone to the beach this summer at all. What drew me to this workshop is that I'm graduating college soon, so I think it's time for me to think about personal finance and how to budget money. So it seems like a perfect start for me to start learning that. And I will invite Rebecca.
Hey everyone, my name is Rebecca, she, her, hers. I was drawn to this webinar because I've worked with nonprofits quite a bit and have worked for a nonprofit, and I feel like there's a lot of drama about managing personal finance, especially when you're expected for part of your income to be compensated by mission and value. And so I was just kind of curious how we like merge both of those topics at the same time. Oh, and where would I be? I am actually like working remotely a lot right now in the Midwest, and it's starting to snow, and I'm really enjoying that because it feels like a change of scenery. I'll pick Bridget.
Hey everyone, my name is Bridget O'Laughlin. I was drawn to this webinar because I love personal finance. I read personal finance blogs, love making budgets, love kind of advising folks in my office on their personal finance systems. So I'm excited to chat more about this topic. And And let's see, I'm feeling kind of like very basic today. So I'm like, what if we were like in DC in one of those conference rooms with like a Panera lunch? Like that would just be kind of nice for a change. So that's the first place
we
my
never
mind went.
would have thought we missed, right?
I know, exactly. So that's me today. And it looks like I think Sarah Jane is the last one to go.
I think I am. Yeah, so I'm Sarah Jane. What I feel personally drawn to this topic about, I was actually just talking maybe 2 weeks ago with a friend in the nonprofit field who was going to a new job and was talking about her salary negotiation and saying how she was probably just going to go in with the mindset that she was going to take less because like that she was already negotiating herself down at the onset and kind of because of that mission mindset. So I was getting all amped up, trying to cheer her on to try to ask for what she deserves. And I encounter that a lot, talking to people who work across a variety of different NGOs. And I am, Bridget, strangely, I am feeling you. Like I kind of even just miss being in a conference room in somebody's office building, but I'm going to go with the beach vibe because something on my Instagram seems to think I really want to go to the Maldives. And I just saw one that was like a water slide that goes down into the Indian Ocean. I want to go there. Like we would slide down after we did the webinar.
That's beautiful.
That was the last one.
Yeah, so then I'll hand it back over to Maggie.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm drawn to this topic, similar reasons. I think I used to work in the nonprofit field. I've heard it from probably almost all of my clients because a lot of them are working in nonprofit mission-driven work, even entrepreneurs too who are in mission-driven work. The idea that like, oh, I'm not doing this for the money. I'm doing it because I care and I'm doing it to make a difference. And of course that's wonderful and I appreciate that. I mean, that's why I started my business too. But that doesn't, I strongly believe that does not mean you should have to suffer financially. And I've seen a lot of organizations take advantage of people in that kind of way. And so even just with small groups of people trying to start changing that mindset and shifting kind of how we think and talk about that is really important to me. And I would be, if I could choose any place in the world, I think I would be drinking a glass of wine in Europe on like a cafe or something like that. That's what I want to do. All right. So is this one me, Whitney? Sorry. Great. So yeah, so we've talked a little bit about like the mission-driven work that people are doing and kind of like the mindset related to like, I either can make money somewhere or I can work for a mission-driven organization and do mission-driven work. And but you might not necessarily have heard that so outright, and you might not have actually like heard yourself saying it or heard other people saying it. So we just wanted to give a few examples of what that might sound like. So again, I'm doing this to make an impact, not because I want to get rich. If I ask for more money, then there's less money for our programs. Like you're being selfish, you're taking away. I know our budget is tight, so I won't ask for a raise this year, or perhaps assuming if you're going in for a new job that you can't negotiate because there's probably not a budget. My benefits or perks are really good, so I should be grateful. Whitney and I were talking about this the other day of like, oh, I get to wear jeans, or we get, certain casual days, or like there's free coffee and things like that. And a lot of times at nonprofits, like the benefits can be pretty good, which is great. That shouldn't be discounted in any way. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're not allowed to ask for compensation. So I wanted to kind of throw it over to some of you all. And, I just gave some of those examples, but how have you seen that money versus mission mindset kind of appear either in your own life or in the organization that you work for in a way that, maybe you're just kind of noticing now? I'll let people just chime in.
I feel like I've either said or heard someone say every single one of those bullet points. Especially if they've maybe hinted at wanting a raise and have gotten like very passive kind of non-committal responses, it starts getting into this weird gray space.
Yep, I've definitely heard that too.
I have also heard it through like there's a real reticence, and especially in the nonprofit field, but a lot of places, to not be public about how much people make. And so then it's this very hush hush thing. And if you try to ask about it when you're starting in a new place, or, you know, then it just seems like you're kind of being pushy or sneaky to ask about money, instead of it just being this upfront thing that is a very clear pay scale, and we talk about it. And then we can also talk about kind of like what might need to be reassessed about it. But instead it kind of seems like it's this really secret thing, and you shouldn't ask or talk about it.
Yeah, and there's multiple problems with that, right? Where like if you're not talking about how much you're earning or knowing how much other people are earning at work, that perpetuates the wage gap, both along gender lines and racial lines. So the more people are open about that, the more people can recognize when there are pay disparities and work and push to actually change that, or maybe go somewhere else if they're not getting that change in their organization. But then also, I'm seeing more and more companies put the pay scale range on like actual job applications, because it's really important when someone's applying that they understand like what the pay band is going to be, whether they are applying for a job that seriously underpays and there's no way they could fit within that. Maybe they don't waste their time applying for that job, or, you know, just starting off from a place of disadvantage, not understanding what your kind of negotiation range is. So a lot of these companies that kind of, you know, say that they're for economic justice and equality and all of that, I think pushing them to start actually publishing that when they're advertising for a job is really important, because it takes some of that unknown away. Anyone else?
What I'm kind of thinking about is kind of I think there's kind of an unspoken pressure, like if you get that raise, you better earn it. So I think like the mission mindset also can be really insidious about like what your workload should be, because, you know, you're working for this bigger goal. So like, of course you should be working till 10 every night, or else you don't care. So I think that's kind of another way it shows up, kind of related to money as well.
Yeah, which then leads to overwork and burnout for a lot of folks, who then end up often leaving their organizations or their fields of work generally because they can't keep kind of working at that clip.
Oh, that's so true. I've definitely been in that position. Just based on what y'all have said, I popped up some of the sort of comments. There are a lot of challenges to overcome here. Everything from fear of asking for a raise, fear of job loss, negative self-talk, the misalignment between your mission and the values that the company is actually sharing in terms of social justice and caring for its employees, as well as lack of transparency throughout the whole process, which ultimately can lead to people staying in jobs that they dislike because they feel that you have to be suffering in order to be doing good work in the world, or that the benefits or perks are worth it. And that's, I mean, this is really why we created this webinar and why we created this course, because these are so many different challenges to unpack and to deal with. It's an awful lot. So we thought we would give you a quick preview of some of the types of things that the course is going to cover. We're going to get into a lot more of the sort of tactical and skill-based components as we get into the actual course. So today, while we're focusing on mindset shifts, then in the course, you'll have a little bit more information about actual tools for navigating your values and your goals and setting actual tools and strategies to make those things happen. These are some of the ideas that we think about now. A lot of that falling into all or nothing thinking, thinking that you have to have reached certain milestones that others have achieved, or letting yourself get stuck in that anxiety, shame, and self-limiting beliefs are all aspects that we're going to be covering in a lot more detail there. But right now, I want to dive in a little bit into these mindset shifts, which I'm having a hard time saying today, where we can start thinking about how changing the way that we think about this can help us change the way that we are interacting with our organizations and with the world. So the first mindset shift is prioritizing both our own success as individuals as well as our impact on the world. And one of the reasons it's so challenging for folks in the nonprofit space to talk about money, and why we chose to tailor this webinar to your sort of unique circumstances in that place, is that we think that we have to suffer in order to achieve our desired impact on the world. But the truth of the matter is there are a lot of people out there who have made an incredibly positive impact on the world without suffering. When we think about some of the great philanthropists and businesses that are working to achieve great things, there are a lot of ways to make a positive impact in the world, and there is no reason that a nonprofit organization should be taking advantage of the people that work there. It's a hard mindset shift to make, but we know that when we're advocating for ourselves and you can achieve that like lack of suffering, it's a lot easier to advocate because we see that as a positive mindset shift rather than like a flaw in ourselves that we don't care enough about the mission in order to do the work for free, because that's not the world that we live in. Maggie, did you want to add anything to that?
Well, I just wanted to say that like a lot of people, the work that they're doing, like they would probably be telling, like if they're providing services on the ground or they're interacting with people individually, they'd probably be telling them the same things, right? And you probably tell your friends to advocate for themselves, to negotiate, to prioritize yourself, put yourself first, but then it can be really hard to then turn around and apply that to yourself, especially if you're not hearing that in your organization. And there is that what I think is a toxic kind of idea in a workplace of like, you must suffer in order to do good work. And I don't think, it doesn't mean you have to be a millionaire. It doesn't mean you need to be getting paid like an unbelievable amount of money, you know, at a nonprofit, but like getting your basic needs covered is not too much to ask, and it makes you better at your job and you'll be able to help more people. I think you're muted.
Yes, I am. That's so true. And it actually segues really well into our second mindset shift.
Yes. So dealing with our money is an act of radical self-love. So I'm a big proponent of this too. So we generally as a society talk a lot about self-care and self-love, but then that kind of ends up looking like getting a massage once in a while, or taking a bath, or getting essential oils in a diffuser. Like, of course those are nice things to do, but that's not going to radically change your life over time probably. And so I'm a big believer that dealing with your finances, organizing your finances, making things feel more manageable and less stressful is one of the biggest things you can do for yourself to show yourself that you care and to set yourself up for success in the future. Because if you have things kind of organized, you're making sure that your bills are paid, you're asking for enough money at work so that you don't feel taken advantage of, and you can cover your basic essentials and then some, right? So being able to do things that you enjoy as well, not just feeding yourself, that's going to just go over the course of your life of like making sure that like you can pay your bills, you have a little bit of money for emergencies, that you're not always terrified that at the drop of a hat everything can kind of fall apart beneath you. So doing what you can in your own life to deal with your money, but then also pushing at work and within your organizations to make sure you're getting compensated properly to actually get you there. Because having enough income is obviously a huge piece of this. It's not just about personal decisions.
That's so true. Our third mindset shift is about understanding failure. And this is something that I struggled with a lot, especially when I was very early in my career. I had a lot of like all or nothing thinking about my finances. Like if I had messed up and gone like a little bit over budget, then I would just like blow everything and go completely off the deep end, instead of understanding that as an opportunity to learn and to grow and to stop beating myself up and living with that shame and anxiety, and to start thinking about that as a learning opportunity. I mean, I'm not sure that reality really set in until I started working for myself. And then I started realizing that failure is just like a natural part of life. And it's something that we all kind of need to deal with and use as an opportunity to learn and grow. And there's nothing you can do to change what happened yesterday. There's only what you can do going forward. And that mindset shift can be really, really, really powerful.
Yeah, it's super powerful, and it's hard too, because in our society, we do not view failure as an opportunity to grow. And failure is like this defining moment that you just like, suck at whatever thing you were trying to do. But that's just not how life works. I mean, if everybody just gave up immediately after not being good at something, I don't know if any of us would do anything anymore. So yeah, that's something that comes up a lot with my clients of like, let's dust ourselves off and like figure out the one step now that we can take moving forward. Like you didn't just destroy everything. Like there's always a way to get back on track. All right, next is how negative self-talk won't help your financial journey. So for people who are dialed into the personal finance field, you might not know that this is true, because there's a lot of negative shame-based advice out there. And I think it's starting to fall out of favor. I know that like all the people that I follow do not subscribe to this. All the people that I engage with do not subscribe to this. But there are a lot of very famous big people still kind of using shame-based language and judgmental language. And I don't actually think that from other people is helpful, and I definitely don't believe it's helpful for ourselves, because the meaner we are to ourselves, the harder it is to feel motivated, the harder it is to feel like we're capable to do anything and to move forward. And so trying to acknowledge that saying cruel things to yourself, calling yourself like stupid or bad with money or irresponsible or whatever it might be, it's not actually going to help you. Most people are not motivated by shame and judgment. They're motivated by compassion and non-judgment. And so we have to be able to recognize when we're doing this. I think that's the first step, is recognizing that you're doing it, because it can be hard to actually change that moving forward. I know that from personal experience myself. But recognizing it and then coming up with little tools that you can use to kind of shift yourself away from that negative self-talk, whether it is, okay, I made a mistake, I'm going to do this tomorrow. Or something I do with my clients is helping them identify ways that they have been really successful, and identify ways that they are like actually really good at certain things, and then helping them identify how they can apply that to their money as well. So trying to be as positive and forgiving to yourself as possible.
Oh, that's such a challenge to actually make it happen and to make it stick.
Yeah.
that it really takes some time to put that into place.
And recognizing that's important too. Like, don't, because then you'll just be mad at yourself again if you suddenly overnight were not like just so in love with yourself and very positive. Like, that's not going to happen. So be patient.
Story of my life. And finally, I think that we kind of hinted at this earlier, but you do not have to give up anything that you don't want to. And one of, I know, Maggie's biggest philosophies around money is that as long as you're aligning your money with your values and what you care about, then there's no wrong choice. Money is hugely personal. So if you like your coffee from Starbucks or enjoy shopping, or you want to do whatever thing it is that supports your values and what you care about, then you don't have to give up things to make your money work. You can really come from a place of empowerment and come from a place of wanting to do what's right for you, not what's right for somebody else.
Right. And we'll focus on this really intensely in the course as well. We'll have a whole section on connecting your values with your money and what that actually means and what that looks like. And then when we talk more about like creating a budget that works for you, so like building in parameters for those things that you really care about and the things that you want to do. Because it's all about, like, obviously, if you don't have endless money, you can't like just do everything all the time, right? So it's all about having boundaries and parameters, but really making sure that you're focusing your money towards the things that you care about most and things that matter, and then not having any guilt around it too. Like, once you've decided that that's what matters, you don't have to feel bad. Doesn't matter what other people are doing.
Oh, that's so true. Next, what we're going to do is split y'all into a couple of breakout groups for a little bit of a discussion. I do love your comment, SJ, that if you stop buying avocado toast, you can theoretically buy a house. That's so not how reality works. We're going to pop you into breakout rooms now, just for a little bit of a discussion on what you believe about money, what stories you're telling yourself, and to kind of ask the question of what would it look like to align your spending or your savings with what you value most. So I'll also pop those questions in the chat. So I'll go ahead and drop that in really quick and send y'all into your breakout rooms. Welcome back. The Zoom breakout session ending is relentless. Offers no opportunity for transition.
Well, they just summon you and then kick you back, which I've never been in a breakout group in Zoom before. I thought that was pretty great.
Yeah, it's pretty great. And it's a good tie-in. Let me go ahead and stop our fun music. Cool. Actually works well to transition into our next topic, which is a little bit of a summary exercise. what we've done with this in the past is the exercise is called Works Well, Do Differently. And essentially we want y'all, anybody who would like to volunteer, to share one or two things that you think you're already doing that is working really well, and then maybe something that you'd like to do differently based on the information that we've shared today. So for me, I think one of the things that's working really well is I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of what my values are and what I care about. The thing I'd like to do differently is kind of take a bigger step back picture at how I can make sure that those are lined up a little bit better. Would anybody else like to share?
So I'll go. I think as a financial coach and a business owner who is going through the COVID crisis, I think this year has been really tough financially, and it's definitely bringing up some of the like disempowering beliefs and negative beliefs around money and my ability to like earn money and what that means for my contribution to the world and those sorts of things. So I think like being a little bit more and this relates to things we talked about with mindsets, but like allowing myself to be kinder to myself and more understanding of like what my business is going through this year, especially as I watch other people go through the same thing. And I'm like, of course it's hard. Like, of course, like be nice to yourself. Like we're all going through this terrible thing right now. And it's like, I need to actually apply that to myself more consistently as well. So I think that's a big one for me.
Yeah, one that I said at the beginning about talking to a friend who was going through a salary negotiation, and that I was talking to her and that was getting me amped up. But I think Maggie or Whitney, one of you said of how it's really easy to like tell other people to do that stuff and then harder for yourself. So I think one thing that I've done that works well is just kind of surrounding myself, finding people who are those good advocates for me to advocate for myself, and knowing that I need that. And sometimes I will kind of negotiate against myself, or you know, not try to push as hard, which as now as a consultant, like I'm pretty regularly engaging in salary negotiations, which is helpful because it's also helping me build that muscle. Then one thing to do differently, Kara and I were having a conversation about your spending aligning with your values, and how this is a small, but the pandemic has made it really hard to live out the value of spending your money in line with sustainability and environmental things, because there's just so much like encouragement to do more towards like single-use plastics and stuff like that. And it's just like, I'm trying to support local restaurants, and we've been doing a lot of that, but then it all comes in a single-use plastic container, and I understand why. So it's hard because it's like sometimes it feels like there are no decisions that are like wholly positive that you can take right now.
Well, it is a global pandemic, so.
I know, it's just adding to my general cloud of angst.
Yeah. Yeah, that is definitely worth thinking about. Anybody else want to share?
I can share. So I think I really loved that one, by the way, about the single-use plastics and delivery of items from online shopping as well. So thinking about that. For me, I think what I'm doing well is that I am, you know, advocating outwardly for myself and my worth. And I think what I would want to do differently is kind of try to let go of some of the guilt or negative self-talk that you kind of have to push through to actually do those actions.
That's so, so true. Okay. I'm not going to make anybody share that doesn't want to share. So that's completely fine. We did have a little bit of time for Q&A if anybody has any specific questions that they want to have answered. I did get a question in the form about budgeting tools. And I know that that's something we're going to get into a lot in the course, Maggie, but if there's anything that you want to recommend kind of as it speaks to shifting mindsets, that would be a great place to start.
Yeah, so this one, it's tough only because it often is very personal. Every individual person kind of thrives differently under different budgeting tools. I know the most popular or well-known budgeting tool is Mint, but I know a lot of people who really hate Mint because it's overwhelming and it emails them every time they're getting close to their budget, and that makes them feel bad. And then they're just like, I'm going to unsubscribe and never look at this again. So it really depends. But I mean, Mint is a good place to start if you've like never seen all of your finances in one place before and you kind of want to have a better understanding. I'm also a big fan of creating a spreadsheet where you can just plug everything in one place and just have it all, you're just fully understanding where you're coming from, and then you can track your spending as you go in there as well. If anyone wants a spreadsheet to kind of start from, you can send me an email. I think our contact info will be at the end here, but send me an email. I can send you the one that I use. But that's a good place to start if you're into spreadsheets. But Mint is another good one. And then there's one called Clarity Money, which is really user-friendly and pretty to use. And then if you're in a couple and you want to be managing and budgeting your money together, the platform that I use for that is called Zeta, Zeta. It's askzeta.com, I think. But it's a nice way to, like, even if you're not necessarily merging all of your finances, you can also, the two of you can see it all together. So just a couple places to start. But remember, if you don't like one, then you can try a different one. It doesn't mean you're just not cut out for it.
That's such a good reminder. I spent a long time thinking that the problem was me, when really what the problem was the budgeting software I had chosen to use at the time, and it not being compatible with me.
Exactly. It's just like our learning styles are different. Our budgeting styles are going to be different. There's no one size fits all.
Excellent. Anybody want to pop on with a question? I saw SJ unmuted.
Oh, go ahead. I saw Bridget's unmuted, so I'll let her go first.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think kind of what I'm really thinking about is salary equity in our sector. And I think the nonprofit sector has a rather insidious problem with this. And just recognizing that as a white woman, it's, you know, all fine and good that I can advocate for myself. But just to see if y'all had any tips on how can I kind of advocate for others in the office as well. And I do think, you know, lack of salary transparency is a huge barrier to this. But just what can we kind of do to promote equity in our organizations and make sure that people are getting paid what they deserve, despite their or regardless of their negotiation skills.
One thing I will say that's been top of mind for me recently is if you are in any way a hiring manager, I would say pushing to include pay bands on job descriptions. So my husband, they're going to be hiring a bunch of people at his company. And I was like, and he was telling me what the pay band was for it and like that he knows the budget. And I was like, well, did you put that in the job description? He was like, oh, right. That's a good idea. I was like, yeah, like you as a hiring manager who's creating this job description, like even if HR pushes back or maybe you don't end up having the decision making power, like pushing for that so that it becomes something that's like, oh, is that something we're supposed to do? And you can like talk about why it's important to do it. You can talk about like the equity conversation. You can talk about how historically women and people of color are being underpaid because of discrimination and not because of their own like worth in the workplace, and also making sure that we're not using questions related to past pay as a way to kind of set up what they're going to be paying moving forward, because again, discrimination is determining the pay bands for a lot of people. So that, I think that is just one way, if you're ever involved in hiring, to push for that and really push HR in that direction. But also being open about your own salary when you're talking to people, especially as you're mentoring people, and encouraging more people to be open about those conversations so that they can know if they're being underpaid and if there is kind of a disparity going on at work.
Awesome. I'm going to keep this Q&A conversation going in the Clubhouse. Maggie has officially joined the Clubhouse. So if you have other questions, feel free to, and you're a member of the Bid Boss Clubhouse, feel free to drop those in. But I want to make sure that we're letting you guys go on time, as well as giving you some more information about the course itself. So I wanted to just run through really quickly some of the information and who exactly this is designed for. So the Personal Finance for Nonprofit Professionals is going to be a 3-week course in a similar format to our remote design workshop masterclass that we just finished. Maggie will be our subject matter expert and will also be chiming in with office hours every Friday to answer your personal questions alongside me. Just as our courses have worked in the past, all sessions and office hours are recorded and available for replay, along with the collaboration with your peers, which is, of course, one of the greatest things that we have to offer. All of our courses are hosted on the Mighty Networks platform, and this one is going to be hosted within the Bid Boss Clubhouse, which is our community for nonprofit and international development professionals, and you'll have that opportunity. So to participate for a full year, that full year membership is valued right now, I think, at about $99. And of course, you'll have those 6 hours of FaceTime with Maggie, who is a proven money coach and financial coach for women and couples, and has really been hugely successful in helping people get past that anxiety and shame associated with money. That FaceTime alone is just such a valuable contribution, with 3 hours of office hours plus 6 hours of instructional content and challenges and practice time. So I wanted to give you an idea of what that looks like in terms of value. Of course, the Clubhouse membership and our live group coaching calls are a big piece of it, but so much of Maggie's time in terms of the lesson content that we've developed, the tools and the challenges, is a huge value. All of that combined adding up to well over $1,800. But because we're offering this in a course package, we're able to offer the full 3-week course for $249. We're also, since we know that this is kind of a expensive time of year, I'm also going to open up an option to pay over the course of 3 months, if that would be easier on your budget. We don't want anybody straining to do this. And as a special bonus, because we love people who come to our webinars, if you sign up within the next 48 hours for the course, we're going to include a free one-on-one coaching session, which you can take with either Maggie or myself. I'm a certified professional diversity coach, and as Maggie is, and we are happy to work with you on things related to mindset, things related to values, and connecting all of that together. So I wanted to send a quick thank you out to everybody for joining us today. We're just like the tiniest bit over our time, but know that you're going to get an email after this with the recording, which you can feel free to share around with folks. And keep in mind that bonus, we'll send you some information about how to access it. So thank you all. I'll put our music back on to enjoy that. And as Maggie said, feel free to email either of us with any questions that you might have that come up, and we'll definitely be in touch. We love doing these sessions with everybody, so it's such an great opportunity to talk to y'all and see your faces. We never get to socialize anymore.
Thanks, everybody. This was great, really fun.
Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.